Robin Hood Radio presents Stage Right or Not with Michele Willens. Michele is a longtime journalist and herself is a published playwright of several theatrical works. She's a frequent contributor to the Huffington Post, Daily Beast, and the Atlantic websites.
Another opening of another show.
Well, to be honest, January is traditionally known as the quietest time in theater. Post-holidays, fans may be exhausted or broke from all that gifting and regifting. Few Broadway shows tend to open. Many, in fact, face their demise. Well, we know these are not normal times, but we can report the latest production calling it quits. That would be Mean Girls, the Tina Fey show, which has announced it will not be returning to Broadway whenever things go up. That one was actually doing quite well at the box office, but it's made the decision to focus on a national tour instead. Who will be next? Well, it's all up in the air, but I wouldn't be surprised if Girl from the North Country, maybe even West Side Story, hang up their hopes. Meanwhile, as we start a new and hopefully much better year, many companies continue to help us through the gloom and doom by offering new and sometimes old material to stream. At this time, a few festivals are upon us. These are always welcome, if hit and miss, but they tend to be a great way to introduce us to budding playwrights. For starters, the Echo Theater in Los Angeles is presenting a series of 3 new works. It's called the Lab Festival of 2021. These will be available January 16th and 17th. I think that will be Saturday and Sunday. The Echo is known for edgy, topical material. It's located in the city's hip, way downtown, which many can't get to or don't choose to go to because traffic. Well, this is your chance to see the kind of work that Echo does. While we're speaking of Southern California, let me say that Tony winners Bernadette Peters and David Hyde Pierce will take part in a virtual opening night of a virtual review that salutes Jerry Herman, the composer behind Mame, Hello Dolly, and La Cage aux Folles. Presented by the Pasadena Playhouse in Southern California. It's available on demand beginning tonight through February 7th. You can find that at playhouselive.org. Now back to those festivals. In New York, the Public Theater, which is certainly well known, if not usually available around the country, is streaming the avant-garde Under the Radar Festival. Free of charge, these are works of all kinds and way outside the box in content. And then there is the Exponential Festival, who knew, which you can find on YouTube. This one is also an array of original and multicultural offerings. It's been called nutty and unpredictable in the past. Now it's probably just called normal. And back to the subject of those budding playwrights, one that I have met and like to follow is Deborah Yarchun, Yarchun. Her play Drive will be read and performed by the excellent actress Joanna Day, who you will recognize from stage and TV. That's on Saturday, January 17th, 7:30 East Coast time. You can find that one via northernstage.org, and you'll find me there as well. Now, as for more traditional, well, sort of, fare, tonight you can live stream one from the Red Bull Theater called The African Company Presents Richard III. Yes, that's the full title. It's free, and my hunch is it may be available after. Red Bull is always out there in its choices and style, as is the Mosaic Theater Company in Washington, D.C. It's starting 2021 with something called Dear Maple, M-A-P-E-L. This is actually a return engagement for what was supposed to be an interesting production. That one you may need to sign up for, I think, to get a ticket, so to speak. But again, it's the Mosaic Theater in our nation's capital, which could use a good bit of entertaining diversion right now. Back here in New York, the always interesting Vineyard Theater is offering reunion readings of one of its most popular productions, which I recall seeing and reviewing positively. It's called Gloria, and is written by one of New York's hottest young writers, Brandon Jenkins. That one starts on the 19th, so I will remind you again next week. Also a week from tonight, which happens to be Martin Luther King holiday, the National Yiddish Theater will be presenting a concert called Soul to Soul. The combo of Jewish and black voices together, well, sounds like it could be the results of an election in Georgia. Now, if you go to Play Per View, you'll find a number of things that will be streaming through mid-February. The one I will tune in for is called Blue Ridge and stars the hugely gifted Marin Ireland. Written by Abby Rosebrock, this one, which originally played at the Atlantic, is about a high school teacher who ends up in a halfway house. And that one has started now, I think. And for sports fans who also happen to be theater fans, or vice versa, here is a unique one. It's called The Play, and it is about the Pittsburgh Steelers four-time Super Bowl player Rocky Bleier. You can find this through Broadway On Demand site, and it is the first of Friday night offerings called One Person Powerhouses. Now, while you're visiting Broadway On Demand, you'll notice that January will be an internationally flavored month. Every Saturday, a new show from somewhere not here will be presented. Now, I'd like to take a moment to not only congratulate the theater community for its inventive and tireless work as second responders during the last 10-plus months, but also those who write about them, whose daily livelihood has been taken away. They've gone back in time, often way back, to report on shows that opened and closed for various reasons. They, and I like to think as I do here, have let frustrated theater fans know what they can stream week by week. They have traveled the nation, so to speak, to find virtual variety to recommend. And they found countless angles. For example, this past week, the New York Times did a deep dive into why a musical called Frankenstein opened and closed in one night. At the time, it was the most expensive show in history. The paper also did a piece on the many actresses who have portrayed Emily in our town over the many decades, how it impacted them, and how Emily could be conceived and received so differently at different times. God, I remember losing out for that role in high school at the final tryout to my best friend. I thought my life was over, but my mother told me everything happens for the best. Well, you know what? I did get the lead in the next, more interesting production, and then I realized I was better at writing words than saying them. So, thank you, Mom, for the lesson I never forgot. Well, if none of the above strike your fancy, you can always head to Amazon Prime to watch Heidi Schreck's one-woman piece, What the Constitution Means to Me. If ever a play feels resonant at a moment, this is it. Of course, we keep thinking that moment may be ending, alas. And finally, Dr. Fauci just told a performing arts conference that he is hopeful that theaters will be opening up with the vaccinations successful and proper air ventilation taken care of. For when? Well, he's talking next fall. Jill, I'm sure fans and artists would like to think sooner, but let's hope for the best.
So I will add my mite to that, and I will say, you know what? I'll bet anybody that it will be sooner.
I think so,
I'll
too.
bet anybody any amount of money that it will be sooner. So
Yeah.
get yourselves a bookie or figure out how to. I don't suppose we can raise money. I know actually you're not allowed to wager for nonprofit, so I'm not going to be able to turn this into a fundraiser.
Yeah, I think, and those are the ones that might do it first. Maybe not the big Broadway shows, maybe the smaller theaters. And Dr. Fauci did say, it doesn't mean that the audiences won't be wearing masks. We hope the actors won't be. But I think, people are in a very deep place right now, a deep, dark place, because it's January, which is deep and dark anyway. But, this is a very bad time with the virus. But there is hope with the vaccine, and it's only January. It's the beginning of January.
Right, and I know one thing that people don't remember is how, deadly, you'll forgive the word, January is in theater, in the theater universe. And it's funny because most of the performers know that and are already prepared, but it's also the same. I'm listening to this about retail as well, And the only good reason for traveling to Europe in January was the sales.
Right.
Right. I mean, just the fact. Oh no! And this is way back when when you were knee high to a grasshopper. Okay, so this isn't recent, but you would go right around now and come back with at least a year's worth of good stuff because the sales were so after the holidays it's sale time. So
and it was also a time for investors by the way, American investors to go over to London and see what was on stage there, and then start making deals to bring them here. So it was a useful month.
Right. They were doing that while their significant others were spending the proceeds from the last successes at the stores.
Exactly.
At the shops. Yeah.
Exactly. Anyway, it does feel, right now things feel so dire, but I keep saying it's only the middle of January. Even April, May that's 4 or 5 months away. A lot's going to happen. People are going to be vaccinated. They are going to be eager to go back.
I feel like the great, who is it? Johnny Carson's the great, when he would wear his turban and be the great, whatchamacallit? Whatever.
Yes, the guy with the, doctor somebody, or the scientist who would yes, I know, the guy who would predict things.
Anyway,
what was his name?
I don't know.
I can see the hat. Yeah.
Right, exactly. That hat, by the way, is called a turban. I was able to retrieve that. But at all events, I am putting on my turban, my world-class turban with the jewel in the middle of it.
I like the optimism. And in the meantime, go watch a lot of stuff that's very experimental and very off there. But, the truth is, this kind of stuff most people would never go see downtown or whatever. So it is a chance to see what new, young experimenters are doing with theater. Let's look at it that way.
Stage Right or Not with Michele Willens, produced in the studios of Robin Hood Radio, robinhoodradio.com.